The morning sun painted golden streaks across Windsor Castle as the world held its breath. May 19th, 2018 would become a day that changed everything for the British royal family. Inside the ancient walls of St. George's Chapel, history was about to unfold in the most beautiful way possible. Prince Harry stood at the altar, his hands clasped behind his back, trying to calm the butterflies dancing in his stomach. He had faced dangerous missions in Afghanistan, walked through minefields with his mother's legacy, and spoken to millions around the world. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. Today, he would marry the woman who had turned his world upside down in the most wonderful way. The chapel filled with the soft murmur of guests taking their seats. 2,000 people had gathered outside the castle gates, waving flags and holding signs of love and support. Television cameras from around the world focused on every detail, ready to capture what would become one of the most watched weddings in history. Harry's brother William stood beside him as best man, offering quiet words of encouragement. The two princes had been through so much together since losing their mother Diana when they were just boys. Now, as grown men, they stood together on one of the happiest days of Harry's life. William could see the nervousness mixed with pure joy in his younger brother's eyes. The guests represented a beautiful blend of two worlds coming together. Members of the royal family sat alongside Hollywood stars, charity workers, and school friends. Oprah Winfrey chatted quietly with George and Amal Clooney, while Elton John, a close friend of Princess Diana, took his seat with genuine happiness for the young prince he had watched grow up. Queen Elizabeth II arrived wearing a bright lime green coat and matching hat, her face showing the warm smile she reserved for family occasions. She had grown genuinely fond of Meghan during their private meetings, seeing in her the same spark of independence and compassion that she valued in all strong women. Prince Philip walked carefully beside her, determined not to miss this important family moment despite his recent hip surgery. The orchestra began the opening notes as the first bridesmaid appeared at the chapel entrance. Princess Charlotte, William and Kate's daughter, walked carefully down the aisle, scattering rose petals with the serious concentration only a 3-year-old could manage. Her brother Prince George followed, looking adorable in his miniature page boy uniform, occasionally waving at familiar faces in the crowd. Behind them came the group of young bridesmaids and page boys, all children of Harry and Meghan's close friends. They had practiced this walk countless times, but nothing could have prepared them for the grandeur of the actual moment. The ancient stone walls of the chapel seemed to embrace them as they made their way toward the altar where Harry waited with growing anticipation. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The massive chapel doors opened wide, and there she stood. Meghan Markle, soon to be the Duchess of Sussex, appeared like something from a fairy tale. Her dress, designed by Claire Waite Keller for Givenchy, was a masterpiece of elegant simplicity. The pure white silk fell in perfect lines, creating a silhouette that was both modern and timeless. The most striking element was her veil, stretching 16 feet behind her like a river of silk and lace. Embroidered along its edges were flowers representing all 53 countries of the Commonwealth, a beautiful symbol of her commitment to the causes that would define her royal role. Each flower had been carefully researched and placed, from the rose of England to the protea of South Africa. Meghan walked alone for the first part of her journey down the aisle, a decision that spoke volumes about her independence and strength. She had wanted her father to walk with her, but circumstances had made that impossible. Instead of letting disappointment overshadow her day, she chose to walk with confidence and grace, her head held high as she moved toward her future. The congregation rose as one, the rustling of fabric and shifting of feet creating a gentle symphony. All eyes were on the bride as she glided down the aisle with perfect poise. Her makeup was natural and glowing, her hair swept back in a simple yet elegant bun that showcased the diamond and platinum tiara loaned to her by the Queen. Harry's reaction was everything romance novels are written about. As soon as he saw Meghan appear at the far end of the chapel, his face transformed into an expression of pure wonder and love. His mouth formed the words, "You look amazing," though no sound came out, and tears gathered in his eyes as he watched the woman he loved walk toward him. The moment captured the hearts of millions watching around the world. Here was a prince, sixth in line to the throne, completely overwhelmed by love for an American actress who had stolen his heart on a blind date in London. Their love story had played out partially in the public eye, but this moment was purely theirs, witnessed by the world but belonging only to them. As Meghan reached the halfway point of the chapel, Prince Charles stepped forward to meet her. Harry's father had volunteered to walk Meghan down the final stretch of the aisle after her own father was unable to attend. The gesture was both touching and symbolic, representing the royal family's complete acceptance of Meghan into their fold. Charles offered Meghan his arm with the gentle kindness of a father, and together they completed the journey to the altar. When they reached Harry, Charles placed Meghan's hand in his son's with a warm smile that spoke of his genuine happiness for the couple. It was a moment that showed the royal family at their most human and loving. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, stood ready to conduct the ceremony that would join these two lives forever. He had spent time with Harry and Meghan in private sessions, helping them understand the gravity and joy of the commitment they were about to make. His warm personality had put them both at ease during what could have been an intimidating process. As Meghan handed her bouquet to her matron of honor, Jessica Mulroney, the chapel fell into a respectful silence. The bouquet itself was another beautiful detail, featuring flowers picked from the gardens of Kensington Palace where the couple had been living together. White garden roses, peonies, and lily of the valley created a simple but stunning arrangement. Harry reached for Meghan's hands as they turned to face each other, and, in that moment, the grandeur of the setting seemed to fade away. Despite the watching millions, the historical significance, and the weight of royal protocol, they stood simply as two people madly in love, ready to promise their lives to each other. The Archbishop began the traditional words of the marriage ceremony, his voice carrying clearly through the chapel and out to the world beyond. But for Harry and Meghan, everything else seemed to disappear. They looked into each other's eyes with the intensity of two people who had found their perfect match against all odds. When the time came for the vows, both Harry and Meghan spoke with clear, strong voices that carried their emotions to every corner of the chapel. These were not just ceremonial words, but promises made with complete sincerity and deep understanding of their meaning. The love between them was so evident that even the most skeptical observers found themselves moved by the genuine nature of their commitment. The exchange of rings was handled with tender care, each slipping the gold band onto the other's finger with reverence for what it represented. Meghan's ring was crafted from Welsh gold, continuing a royal tradition, while Harry's was a simple platinum band that matched his understated style. When the Archbishop finally pronounced them husband and wife, the joy that spread across both their faces was infectious. Harry leaned in to kiss his new bride, a kiss that was brief but filled with such happiness that it seemed to light up the entire chapel. The congregation erupted in gentle applause, a rare break from tradition that somehow felt perfectly appropriate for this modern royal couple. As the newly married Duke and Duchess of Sussex turned to face their guests for the first time as a married couple, the magnitude of what they had just accomplished seemed to settle over them. They had not only pledged their love to each other but had also committed to a life of service, duty, and public scrutiny that would challenge and fulfill them in ways they could barely imagine. The recessional music began, and Harry and Meghan walked back down the aisle together, their faces glowing with happiness. The same aisle that Meghan had walked alone just 30 minutes earlier now carried them both toward their shared future, whatever it might bring. Outside the chapel, the crowds erupted in celebration as the church bells began to ring across Windsor. The sound carried for miles, announcing to the world that a new chapter had begun for the British royal family. Inside the chapel, guests lingered to congratulate each other and share in the lingering magic of what they had just witnessed. The young bridesmaids and page boys were quickly surrounded by proud parents eager to capture photos of their children's big moment. Princess Charlotte held tightly to her mother Catherine's hand while Prince George tugged at his formal collar, ready to change into more comfortable clothes for the reception. Queen Elizabeth II was one of the first to congratulate the new couple, her warm embrace of Meghan speaking volumes about her acceptance of her newest granddaughter-in-law. The moment was captured by photographers and would become one of the most treasured images of the day, showing the monarch at her most grandmotherly and welcoming. Prince Philip, despite his recent surgery, insisted on walking without assistance to greet Harry and Meghan personally. His conversation with them was brief but warm, and his presence meant the world to Harry, who had always shared a special bond with his grandfather. As the formal photographs began inside the chapel, every detail was carefully orchestrated to capture the significance of the day. The photographer worked quickly but carefully, knowing that these images would become part of history, studied and treasured for generations to come. The bride and groom stood together in the spot where they had just exchanged vows. Now able to relax slightly,